Blog Talk Radio.
Across the country and around the world, streaming live on the internet, it's Real Estate Coaching Radio, bringing you the latest news, interviews, and secrets of the top producers. Hosted by award-winning real estate coaches, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back to Real Estate Coaching Radio, your unfiltered, full-strength honesty about what is truly working in real estate. And today we have a very special guest. It's probably one of the nation's, well, I know she's one of the nation's top producing agents, and she's the number one agent with Century 21, Marty Rodriguez. So, Marty, without any further delay, welcome to today's radio show.
Hi, Tim. Nice to be with you again.
Yes, absolutely. So for those of you who didn't know, we did an interview with Marty. That's probably been maybe about a year, maybe 2 years ago, and it was one of our most listened to and downloaded interviews we've ever done before, and the feedback on the interview was just fantastic. So I'm sure today's show is going to be just as good, if not better. So, Marty, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, send you a referral, any of that good stuff, how can they do so?
Century 21, Marty Rodriguez, and our telephone number here is 626 area code 914-6637, and my email is Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at C21MartyRodriguez.com, and that's MartyRodriguez. Thank you.
Absolutely. Marty, I have to say, one of the things we got the most feedback on was after our first interview was how you were very clear about the fact that when it came to balance in life, that it was something that you had deliberately thought about, and that some of the decisions that you had made were at a cost sometimes of other things and other aspects of your life. And I think by you being that honest on our first interview, which, by the way, it only makes sense. I mean, obviously, that's something that anyone who's trying to achieve anything in life, you know, they're going to have to be very clear that to achieve one thing, it sometimes it means they are not going to be able to emphasize the other things as much. That liberated a lot of folks who are also trying to follow your road to success. And you also put it in a context that I think, thrilled to hear you share with regards to the fact that, you know, the balance is something you strive for, but, well, you know what, I won't put your words out there. You explain. So when I say balance in life, in business and personal life, what does that mean to you?
You know, I think, you know, when you talk about balance, when you're trying to get started, when you're, you know, trying to get all your ducks in a row, it's not going to be as balanced as you'd like it to be, because, you know, for whatever it is you want in life, there's a price to pay. And so you've got to decide what price are you willing to pay to get to where you want to be. You know, like I told you, I think I might have mentioned this last time when my daughter was growing up, and, you know, she had graduated from college, and, you know, somebody asked her, you know, don't you wish your mom had been there more when you were growing up? And, you know, I think they wanted a negative reaction, and her answer was, if my mom had been there more, I would not have graduated from USC. You see, there's a price to pay for everything we want in life. Well, we just got to decide what price we're willing to pay.
That very comment right there, I think, is so incredibly powerful, because there's so many feel-good books and all these other things that are out there right now that aren't willing to say it so bluntly. Guys, if you're trying to accomplish anything in life, of course there's going to be imbalance, but over time, obviously, if those things start to make more sense, you know, and I just think that little thought alone, guys, if you get nothing else from today's interview, which obviously you will, is really important that you remember that. I mean, balance is something we all strive for, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to work on your business and build financial stability and build wealth for your family, then maybe there's going to be some costs in some other categories, and that's called what we say normal. So, Marty, let's just kind of start at the beginning. You've been in real estate for how long, and tell us a little bit about your market, because I know your market's transitioned a lot in the last 7 to 10 years.
Yes, I've been in the business since 1978. So, you know, I've been through the good, bad, and the ugly, and I have survived every market because, you know, I'm like Wayne Gretzky. I don't go where the puck is going. I go, you know, I go where I don't go where the puck is. I go where the puck is going. So for me, it's always been, okay, the market's shifting again. What's my next step? What do I have to do? What changes do I have to make? Because, you know, I had to reinvent myself in the last 10 years, you know, going from normal sales to short sales to REO, and then now we're back to a normal market. So you've got to you've got to be ready to transition. And not only that, remember when I started, there were no computers. Everything was MLS books. I had to sit down and go in the back room and pull a big book for every line of information that you can push a button today and get automatically. So, I've come a long ways. Not only that, I had to make sure that I was, tech savvy, because I know a lot of people that started when I did are not tech savvy. So if you're not tech savvy, you're not going to survive in this market. You've got to be everywhere. I mean, when I get an email from a guy in Taiwan says, "Hey, Marty, I really like your listing in Glendora. Can you call my sister in Arcadia?" That's the power of the internet. And if you're not there, you're done.
So your Wayne Gretzky quote was perfect. So where, in your view, is the puck going to be? Where are you seeing the market shifting? What's the trend that you're preparing for?
Now, we're back to normal sales. So, I never put my eggs all into one basket. I did everything. I was doing short sale. I was doing, some REO and doing my standard sales. So now we're back to pretty much all standard. And it's a different market because we have, like in most places, we have a shortage of inventory. So my job is to, work hard and get those listings because, you've got to control those listings in order to get also the buyers.
See, that's very interesting.
That's my focus.
Marty, have you noticed there's a shift away from agents learning how to be listing agents and maybe overemphasizing just basically building businesses around working with buyers? Have you noticed that trend? You know what the trend that I'm noticing? People forgot that success, the definition of success is how's it go? The execution of the super execution of the basic fundamentals. People don't answer their phone anymore. I mean, it's just it's so ridiculous. I love text. I love email. And let me tell you, I'm a great texter. I'm a great emailer. But sometimes you just got to pick up the phone. You've got to hear what I'm saying, how I'm going to say it, and what I have to say to you. And people do not want to do that. I went on a listing appointment the other day, and the client said, I called on this listing. She goes, and they were a young couple. Okay, young people like texting. But when she said, I called, and he texted me back and said, "Do you have an agent?" She said, I was done with him. So people don't understand. Text is great, but sometimes we have to, learn how to verbally communicate. That's right. Interesting.
And pick up and pick up the phone. Like here, a real person answers my phone 7 days a week. You know how many clients I go on appointments?
What I hear you say is, even though a lot of people think they overemphasize electronic communication, and nothing's ever going to replace over the phone, face-to-face type of communicating. That's what I'm hearing you say. Is that correct?
Yeah, especially when we're negotiating, or we're trying to get the listing, or sometimes just face to face. And like I said, I'm a major texter. I'm a big time texter, and and email. I believe in all that, but there's sometimes you just got to pick up the phone. Like I just referred a client to another agent out in Santa Clarita. Well, she never picked up her phone. My clients called her 8 times. So what happens? All they do is play telephone tag.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so, but that's some of you guys are listening right now, and you're like, okay, you're talking to the number 1 Century 21 agent in the world, and you guys are talking about texting. But what you guys aren't hearing, or hopefully many of you are hearing, is that Marty is saying some of us have lost the ability to communicate over the phone. Some of us have rationalized that it's okay to basically, spend all your time emailing and whatnot, whereas at the end of the day, it's A, urgency getting back with the prospect or your client, and B, it's also picking up the phone. And if you don't have the skills to communicate over the phone and whatnot, learn them. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say, Marty.
Well, you know what? And I tell my agents, you got to be quick, you got to be fast, and you got to be first. So if they don't hear, they just keep moving on. And like I said, and some people are going to respond to email. And what I told you, I love email. I mean, I try to respond as quickly as I can. But when I'm negotiating, or I need to really talk to somebody, and we need to get into detail, we just need to sometimes pick up that phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that picking up the phone is the differentiator. It is the thing that makes you special, the fact that you're calling them, whereas maybe everyone else is just trying to electronically communicate and leave messages. I think that's a very direct, simple, but very powerful message. So,
and electronic and email might be the sole matter of communication, maybe 20 years from now, but not right now.
No,
but
I don't
20 years from now, I'll be gone. They won't have to listen to me.
Well, let's hope not. So, what are your three? What are your three best leads? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, this is always a question, you've done enough presenting to agents. You always know, they're always going to ask this question. Marty, how do you do it? How do you list so many houses? What are your 3 best lead generators? If you could only do 3 things, what would they be?
You know what? I think it's also, the accumulation effect. When I started, 36 years ago, I started, knocking doors, face to face, because I liked that better than I liked the telephone. So that's where I started. And then as I got better, again, I was, you're just listed, just sold. And now it's, it's not only those things, but it's, it's so much internet, based. We are like on, 800 different, websites. So our leads also come in, through different types of internet leads. So, we're kind of everywhere because you still have your print people, but majority of people I think are probably getting to more internet based. So we got to make sure that we're there, but we got to respond or we got to pick up that phone and call them.
I'm curious.
Both.
Do you buy buyer leads? Are you buying buyer leads?
No,
for your
I do
staff?
not. We do not buy buyer leads. No.
You didn't even have to think about that. So do you have an opinion on this buying buyer leads trend that seems to be taking hold right now?
I don't know. I just can't see that because our buyers, are calling here because they're calling on either listings we've had or because of our reputation. So when my agents are cold calling, they are not cold calling. They are warm calling because a lot of those leads that they're calling are people that have already called here. So they've got some kind of, desire to maybe buy or just interested in real estate, and you got to hope that you just catch them at the right time because we track a lot of those leads that come in here, so you can see where they've called maybe within the last 5 years. Maybe they talked to 3 different people, and then finally they made it happen. They either purchased or sold. So we can see that trend happening. So, I think you're just having a good system tracking, the leads that they are getting. But to pay for leads, no, we got enough leads coming in. I got to make sure they're working the leads we've got. Because sometimes, the way we work here, if you don't follow up on that lead, the next person can take the lead away from you. That's
we're
going to
talk about your team. We're going to talk about your staff and your team in a second. But you're obviously a strong listing agent, and that's I heard you said that's that's the key. You got to list to last is what they've been saying since the beginning of homes. So listing agents, being a listing, how do you prioritize your time around, for example, lead generation? Can you share with the listeners what Marty Rodriguez, at your level, what you do to generate business yourself, specifically with listings?
At my level, really, I have a lot of, business that's already come in. So my job now is to follow up and prospect those leads that I already have. So for me, if I'm not, helping one of my buyer's agents, if I'm not a listing appointment, then my job is to follow up on my leads and, prospect and continue to get more listings. That's my job. And sometimes, I do a lot of things that, at the moment are probably not going to generate the listing, but at the end of the day, a year from now, 2 years from now, they're probably going to list with me. Like a client just was in here just a minute ago, and somebody just, tore up her rental, so I've already got somebody over there working on it, getting it fixed for her. So, because they trust us. They know us. And then the same guy just finished cleaning up another house because I'm going to get him more money because we've cleaned it up. I just did another one in Laverne. We just finished, and I loaned him $10,000 to fix it, and I got him $20,000 over asking on the price. So there's a lot of things that I can afford to do now that I couldn't afford to do then.
Tell us about your team, Marty. You mentioned your staff and how critical they are. How does that work? How does the Marty Rodriguez team work?
Well, my office opens at 8 o'clock, not 8:01, not 8:02, 8 o'clock sharp. And our staff people are at their desk ready to, assist, with the transaction coordinators or the call coordinators, ready to assist clients. Because when I tell you I'm open at 8, we mean 8 o'clock. Shelley, my daughter Shelley, runs the business side of this business. She graduated from USC Marshall School of Business. So she rewards the staff for being on time, so attendance is never an issue because that is the standard here. And then everything in the company, everything you'll see is organized, systemized, computerized, color-coded, labeled, and every position has a manual. So staff, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. And then we have, I think there's 15 of us on the team now. And my buyer's agents are also empowered to list because we want everybody not only just to sell, we want them to, get out there and list properties also.
how do you hold your buyer agents accountable to leads? That's another thing with a lot of folks who are thinking about adding buyer staff. The question is, do I add an actual buyer agent, or do I refer those buyer leads out to another agent that's a real strong buyer's agent and charge them 30 or 35%? So how do you go about balancing or holding accountable your buyer's agents for results?
The leads come in, and the front desk disperses the leads. Okay, so they know who got them, when they got them, and exactly what time they got them. So then the other agents can go into other agents' leads, and if there aren't any notes on it, they haven't followed up on it, it's open game. After I think it's like 7 days, I can't remember, maybe 5 days. I'd have to ask Ed. But so that means because we spend a lot of money, not only bringing these leads in, but also having staff here available. So if you're not going to follow up on it, then next. Let the next person take it, somebody that can close them. And sometimes even we tell the agents, if you think, your personality doesn't fit, you can't close, give it to somebody else. Let somebody else try to close them.
So that's interesting. I was going to ask you this question, but you mentioned personality. Is that something that you try to match your buyer's agents with the buyers based on a DISC personality?
So, like if I take a listing,
that?
If I take a listing and my seller becomes a buyer, I only work on the listing side. So if it becomes a buyer, I refer to one of the buyer's agents. So then I try to, match personalities if I can.
So you do that based on the your buyer's agent's personality, and obviously the client, the seller who's also buying on the up leg. Then
Correct.
You're trying to make sure they're a good sync. That's interesting. So.
Right.
Do you hire based on personality profiling? Is that something that you take into account?
You know what? My son Ed is the sales manager, so he hires all of the agents. So yeah, Ed, tries to make sure that they're a fit. He's going to know in 90 days if they're going to fit on the team or not. Everybody here has to show up, dress up. We do accountability. You produce or you can't stay, because we have created a culture of agents that really want to work. Because remember, in our industry, probably only 5% of the agents do 95% of the business. So most people do not take this job serious. I tell my agents, this is serious business. We're dealing with people's life, their money, their family, and their biggest investment. Real estate is not a part-time job. And if you want to work part-time, go down the street, because anybody will hire you. We won't do that here. We take our job, very, very serious.
That's a very powerful message, and I think that sometimes, again, when I talk with folks at your level, Marty, the thing that becomes very clear is you guys are not, you're not confused about what matters. I mean, obviously, being of service to your customers, doing the best job, respecting, their money, certainly their time, is priority. But also, I'm not getting any sort of gray area from you about what the role of the individual team members are. They are going to produce a certain result. They're going to be held accountable to a certain set of standards, and if they don't make it, then they're obviously not a fit for your business and your personal standards, and then you get rid of them. I mean, after 90 days is what I heard you say. And agents listening, and I know there's thousands of you that... Go ahead.
And Tim, I also wanted to say, because you know what, when I look at their leads and it's like, okay, you didn't get their last name. I go, if you don't know their last name, they are not your client. That means you didn't connect. You better know everything about that client, who they are, at least what age group. Do they have kids? Do they have kids in school? What's their motivation? Where do they work? If you don't know everything about them, you cannot help them.
That's right. That's a really good point. Listings. Let's shift a little bit and let's talk about the listing side of your business. I'm sure, as far as being a strong listing agent, that's something that I don't think anyone's going to say you're not. You've got to be probably one of the strongest listing agents in the nation. So listings, just basic stuff. Do you do a two-stop listing presentation or a one-stop? Do you send out a pre-listing pack? All that type of stuff, the basic stuff that every listing agent needs to be doing. I'm sure that you have your own ideas. I'm curious how you handle those things.
You know what? I just do a one-stop. I mean, I've been doing it for so long, I can probably describe the house from my desk, before I get there. So I do a one-stop because, when I started in the business, those were the days when, we used to do caravan. I was the caravan chairman for the Azusa Glendora board for 12 years. So I would go out and, drive the streets and go look at every single house personally because we didn't have computers, okay? So I know my markets well. I know the streets. I know the neighborhoods. So I am grateful for that because today people don't even have, don't have a clue if they want to do everything on the internet so they don't really get out and, drive and actually look. And I think that's, really important when they're brand new. They need to do that.
Well, you
still need to go out because you sell what you see.
Well, and that, again, that's, you said earlier, and it was great. I mean, you said basically how quick you follow up with leads is critical. Seems like something everyone should know intuitively, but they certainly don't seem to. And now you're saying, hey, guess what? If you're going to sell real estate, you sure as heck better know the product. There's another basic thing that we definitely have gotten away from over the last, couple dozen years, that agents, that brokers, office managers, I mean, if they've been in the business for a while, they know how critical that is. But for the most part, you're right. I mean, agents are getting into this business, and they're not taking the time to go out there and know the market. And, guys, that gives you such a huge advantage when you're talking with anyone. If someone strikes up a conversation with Marty at Starbucks about, whatever house, he's going to be able to tell you who lived in it before and how old the windows are and, who the next-door neighbor's owner is and maybe even the name of their dog. I mean, that is market knowledge, guys, that really does give you an unfair advantage. That's where confidence comes from, doesn't it, Marty?
That's right. And in fact, the other day I ran into Sugar Shane Mosley, so I said, oh, yeah, you got your house for sale, and his ex-wife was there. I go, yeah, she lives over in this tract over there. He goes, how do you know all that? Because I do. That's my job, to know everything that's going on around me,
It is, absolutely.
So, and that when you sell real estate, you need to know as much as you can about real estate, about the neighborhoods, about the people, because I know so much that really people don't even know that I know. Do you know what I mean? Because that's my job. That's how you put transactions together.
So what's the biggest misconception that people have about top producers like you? Because where you are, the air is rare. There's not very many people that have your track record. I mean, there might be some people that occasionally will be, like I was the number one realtor at this particular company for a year, but you've been the top of the mountain for a long time. So what are the biggest misconceptions you think folks have about people like yourself?
Misconceptions, they try to make excuses why you sell instead of saying, you know what, they just work hard. They know their stuff. Let's get, instead of trying to figure out what I'm doing right, people want to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And trust me, there is no wrong. Everything I'm doing is right. Or I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
But that's very interesting that you said that. Again, this is the reason I like talking with you, because you're very honest about it. But, that is interesting, though, isn't it? So when you get to a certain level, as opposed to people, taking note and seeing, okay, what can I copy, or what is she doing well, or, opposed to doing that, they'll look for and make excuses for their own lack of performance by just making assumptions that maybe she's working in some gray area, or she's figured out some little something or another that maybe I could be doing, or I should, that is interesting. That's how the brain of an average agent works. But
it's really funny because when I first started doing well, people would say, oh, Marty gets all her leads from her husband. It was like, really? My husband doesn't even like to talk to people. So, you know what I'm saying? Instead of looking to see what you're doing right and how you're making it happen. And then somebody sent me this the other day, one of the girls that works with me, she says, your life is your message to the world. Make sure it's inspiring. And I take that very serious.
Well, one of my wife's coaching clients, Bill Bird, who's in 3 years has gone from essentially being less than zero, and this year he's probably going to earn over $400,000. He approached you at the Century 21 Awards banquet, and he said how nice and just absolutely, when he was talking with you, how you had no ego and how you were so gracious with your time. And he asked you what advice you'd have for him. And I'm just going to give you credit for this because it's something that he said was immediately impactful. Well, of course, his coach had been telling him, centers of influence in past clients and how important they are, and how they're really the only value your business has over time is the accumulated effects of the positive experiences that people have had with you. But when you told him that, he said he immediately made a change in his mindset. So can you talk a little bit about how important that aspect of your business is and how you keep those relationships going with folks year after year?
Well, you know what? I try to keep in contact with my past clients, and I have a lot of them. So, we basically, keep in contact. For me, it's hard because I have so many. So it's really once a year we send them a calendar, and then now we have a newsletter that goes out to them. You just want to keep being, in front of them, and so we're sending the newsletter, we're emailing, just trying to stay in front of the client. But not only that, it's like, when my client just came in here right now, it's like, okay, I need help. You're there still to help them. And I had another client call me that I short-sold his home a while ago, saying, well, now he wants to get back in the market, so I've got to figure out, when he's going to be ready. So, I think available for these people, a lot. Even if we're not doing a transaction or they, need help on something, and then keeping, in front of them, so when they are ready to either buy or sell, they're going to come here. Or their kids, now we're selling their kids.
When you have a situation with a client that for whatever reason isn't, I guess the question is, have you ever fired a client? Have you ever actually released a listing or just said a buyer's, we can't work with you anymore because of this, that, or when do you decide to basically fire a client, or is that something you do?
God, that's not something we do, because really, even if somebody wanted out, we don't cancel listings. We put too much effort and time and money into our listings. We don't ever cancel a listing. We will withdraw a listing, but not cancel it.
Well, so here's what I'm hearing you say. Yes, it's a lot of work to get the listing, and it's your job to figure out how to appease that seller's concerns, regardless of how difficult they might be. So there's another theme that
and you know what, and it just doesn't happen, Tim. It just doesn't happen because we do our job.
Yeah, that's true, right? Get the house listed, price it right, and get it sold. I mean, that is the bottom line.
Yeah. Exactly,
so
and you know what? We do feedback, and we stay in touch with them so they know that we're working for them. So they're never in a position that they're not happy with us. It would be very, very rare. The only time I've had somebody unhappy, because I'm usually dealing if it's a divorce, and it's not that they don't like me; they just don't like each other.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? I mean, some people just come to you kind of worked up. Yeah, real estate's it can be a very stressful process. But again, guys, I hope you're listening. Communication again. She keeps on saying, I'm sure she's probably not realizing she's saying it, but one of the secrets to anybody's success, especially in a service job, service industry like what all of us are in, it's communications, actually following through and exceeding their expectations. When you promise them you're going to call them once a week for feedback and a market update, well, you sure as heck better do it. And also think about dropping at least an elaborate email backing up what you're saying, if not something in the mail, as in direct mail. So these little tiny, 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 tiny things that don't really take that much time make the biggest difference when it comes to, building a business that's really going to be everlasting, where you're going to have a lot of repeat and referral business. Marty, I was interviewing one of our superstars not so long ago. Well, it's been maybe more than a year now, and he's the number one agent in Southern California with another big brand. And, it was a fun call because he confessed that he's never followed up with his centers of influence and past clients, and yet, he basically has been able to build this huge business. And then towards the end of the call, I asked him what the one thing he would have done differently, and guess what he said? I would have done a better job with my centers of influence and past clients. I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
And it is hard, because when you get busy, Tim, it's hard, to be calling all your, past clients, because you've got new business coming in all the time. So you've got to figure out a way to, to stay in front of them a different way.
That's right. So what's the next level for you? I mean, do you think about that, or what's the next level for your business? You have your family's involved. You have a lot of folks that are dependent on you. I'm curious. Are you guys focused on building the business, driving more money to the bottom line? What's your focus right now?
Yeah, you know what? It's building our team. Like I said, we've empowered our agents to also be listing agents, and we just want to have a team that is not just made up of buyers agents, but a team that's made up of listing and buyers agents.
Interesting.
And that's what we're building. Our job is to help them and empower them. I mean, I work with my agents. I work closely with them, and because if they need my help, whether I need to teach them something, whether it's legal, whether it's about selling, or they just need my help to, help them close.
Do you find managing your team, Marty, I'm curious, do you find managing your team, because you built your team slowly. I think that's really important. I actually point this out. I mean, Marty's been in the business for over 30 years, and again, this is another little detail thing that's being lost nowadays, is she learned to sell first on her own. She learned to actually go after the business, i.e. listings. She learned how to lead generate. She learned to go out and get the appointments. She learned to go out and take the listings. She learned how to close, negotiate, and all those things. And then you slowly added staff. You didn't try to build your team before you had the skill set yourself. Am I overstating this?
And no, you're absolutely right. And then I see these brand new agents. It's like, oh, I need an assistant. It's like, no, you need to learn how to do everything first, so then you know what to expect from an assistant. You know?
Why are they thinking like that, Marty? Help me understand.
I don't know, because you know what? You have to learn how to work hard first. You have to learn all the basics of what you do. I remember my friend John Lopez, he owned at McDonald's, here in Los Angeles, and now he owns Lopez Foods out of Oklahoma City. And I remember his boys were working, in the stores, cleaning floors, selling hamburgers. He taught them all the basics so that when they got to a position of management, they knew what to expect from these people that they were going to be managing, And it's kind of the same way with us. When we're brand new, we need to learn how to do every single aspect of our business so that, we know what to expect from the people that are going to assist us.
When did our industry get away from that, Marty? Help me understand. When did building your team? Well, we do I'm getting on my soapbox, and I'm not going to allow myself. I'm going to prevent myself from doing it. But what this team thing. We get calls from agents who are not knowing how to list houses, not knowing how to generate leads themselves. They buy all their leads. And they want us to, help them build their teams. And those aren't our coaching clients, because the reality of it is what you're thinking you can do is essentially delegate the learning and the hard work yourself. But the reality of it is you have to do it yourself, and then you add assistance slowly. Exactly. So
you know what? I remember one time that somebody had asked about, this was way back when, about getting an assistant for the buyer's agents. And I remember my daughter, Shelly, saying, Mom, they're not ready for an assistant. She goes, you need to push them to their limits first, or they will never be great.
I like your daughter.
Uh-huh.
That's very smart. And that is the bottom line. And so it's almost like agents nowadays, or maybe brokers, or maybe office managers, or whatever it is, they're afraid actually to push the agents or encourage the agents to actually work hard. I worry about the agents, a lot of them that are getting into the business, who are believing that they should be focusing on their teams, or the reality of it is they should focus on their skills. They should focus on knowing their markets. They should focus on actually learning how to be of the highest level service to their clients. And then after you have consistent income, you add an assistant. Oh,
exactly.
Anyway, soapbox over.
And then you can add all the other parts in as you're growing. But now you know how to do everything, so you know what to expect from your assistant or whoever is helping you.
That's right.
And that's
Marty, I always
go ahead.
Oh, I always like to end these interviews, and this is a really great question, because it always surprises me what people say. Well, I can't say always, but it usually does. So why you? We're in one of the most, crazily competitive markets, and you are selling in what has to be, if not one of the top 3 most competitive markets. Year in and year out, you're a top producer. You're one of the best performing agents in the nation. You've been through, I'm guessing in your time, you've been through 3 major recessions. You've been through housing crashes, housing booms, and still you're standing tall as a leader in our industry. Why you? Why Marty Rodriguez?
I know how to sell in any market. That's why. Because, like I told you, I know how to adjust, and I show up more than everybody else. I work on my skills, and the more you do, the more you know.
That's a pearl. Thank you, Howard Brinton. That is a good point. That is the bottom line. The action is what basically builds the confidence, which basically is required in order for you to be successful long term. And Marty, I really, truly appreciate your time today. I personally love talking with you. I hope all of our listeners do as well. And guys, absolutely consider, if you have anybody that's moving out to sort of Central California, connect with Marty. If she can't or her staff can't help you, I'm sure she's going to point you in the direction of an agent who can, somebody that she knows and has confidence in. So, Marty, again, remind them how they can get a hold of you.
It's Century 21 Marty Rodriguez. We're located at 1030 East Route 66 in Glendora, California, 91740. Our telephone number is 626-914-6637. And my email is marty@c21martyrodriguez.com.
There you go. So, everyone, thank you for listening today. And, Marty, thank you sincerely for participating in today's radio show. I'm sure you've indirectly and directly helped thousands of fellow agents. Guys, please listen to this interview again and again. and understand really what it comes down to are the very key principles of success that Marty shared with all of you today. Listen to this interview, share it with other agents, and really let's get back in our industry to the basics, to focus on being of service to others, and really when you do at the highest level, when you do what you don't want to do, when you don't want to do it at the highest level, guys, that will inevitably lead to your success. So Marty Rodriguez, thank you very much for being on our radio show, and everyone else, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk with you tomorrow. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you, Tim. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.